Welcome to episode 54 of the Clarity Podcast. This will be a quick one. I say this every time, but it will be today. Rustling in my coat here at football training, and I don't want to miss it. So, but it's Friday, and I went to my usual coffee shop. I've always had a bit of a tradition that on a Friday afternoon, I would go to a coffee shop on my own and people watch. I've mentioned this millions of times, but getting really present and just conscious breathing and getting present and just watching people go past. There's always been something that I find really peaceful, really grounding, really meditative. Just seems to just a real slowing down, and I resist the urge. I find it when I'm mentally busy, it's almost like my brain is hungry. It will look for stimulation. It will look for, let's scroll a reel, let's look on Instagram, let's look at messages, let's whatever it is, right? Look at photos, just anything that gives my brain a dopamine hit. Or if my brain is quite busy, is in running fast, that might be when, I'm like, oh, I didn't message this person back, and oh, I didn't check this email, and oh, I forgot to check my whatever, and oh, this needs sorting, and your brain kind of keeps throwing shit at you, essentially. Almost like, revs per minute, RPM on a car, it's just thoughts per minute. It's like my thoughts per minute, my TPM is running high, and I find that's when my brain is quite jittery. It's like, oh, what about this, and what about that, and oh, you forgot to do this, and oh, or it's like, let's look at Insta, and it seems to do that, either a distraction or a kind of constant, yapping away of what hasn't been done. And I tend to just, all of that stuff can fuck off. It can all wait. It's all going to be there. It's still going to be there in an hour. It's still going to be there in 2 hours, If something hasn't been done now, another hour's not going to hurt. And things like Instagram or whatever dopamine rush the brain is looking for, well, that can wait too. So kind of resist that urge and just be. I love just watching people and just tuning into people's energy a little bit and watching their conversations and watching how they interact and watching people walk past. And then part of what I normally do, I didn't do this today, but either mentally or with a journal. When I say journal, I mean pen and pad or whatever. My journal is actually like a handmade leather journal from Vienna, but you don't have to be that extra. You can be much more basic bitch and go with your bog standard piece of paper or notes or whatever. But I used to, and I didn't do it today, but I used to then, and I like to reflect on the week. What were my biggest wins this week? What went well this week? What didn't go so well? What was my biggest cause of stress this week? If I was to live the week again, would I do anything differently? Now, that's not about regrets. That's just about, the point of that question is because if you would have done something differently, you can then take that into next week, right? So if I could go back in time and live this week again, would I do anything differently? And then you can look at, okay, cool. So next week, what are my intentions from that place, right? You can then look at, okay, what do I want to achieve next week? If I could only achieve one thing next week, what would that be? If I could only do one thing next week for next week to be a success, what would that be? And then set my intentions for that. I like to set my intentions in terms of relationships, in terms of myself, mentally, spiritually, in terms of business, and in terms of health, physical, and that's where I set my intentions for that. Because what I normally find, whether this is somehow the brain works subconsciously on these things, or whether it's the law of attraction, or whether it is something else, I normally find when I set my intentions for that week, even if I forget to look back, or I forget what I said, the amount of times I look back and go, holy shit. Like I've done this before, I'd have on my whiteboard a certain goal, and I forget it's even on there because maybe I've been busy and I've forgotten to actually consciously go and look and take the time to look at, which I would advise doing, by the way. I would actually suggest, and I'm not perfect, clearly, and I've never pretended I am, I would suggest, looking back over your goals and looking at your intentions more often. But sometimes life just lifes and you're getting stuff done, you're moving forward, and then I'll look back at my intentions on my whiteboard, or look back at my intentions for this quarter, or look back at my intentions for the week. And the amount of times I'm like, oh my God, like I've actually done those things, or I've achieved these goals, or I've moved towards them, and I actually kind of forgot. So anyway, there's your questions to reflect on the week and to, prepave next week, your intentions for next week. The reason I love these questions is because I normally find that it's very easy to forget. Like if you're always looking forward, sometimes it's easy to forget to measure backwards. It's like, okay, this isn't done, this isn't done. We can be negative focused, all the things that haven't been done, right? And then future focus is in, right, I need this, and this to be done, and this to be done. And we forget to stop and go, okay, yeah, but what have I actually achieved this week? What's gone well this week? And then in terms of what was the biggest cause of stress this week, and then, if I could face the week again, what would I do anything differently? That's more just creating new patterns, new predictions, new responses, new ways of growth, essentially. Rather than repeating the same problem again and again and again, we get to look at it and go, okay, what could I do differently? What would I do differently? That's the point of those questions. So that's it for now. More of a probably practical rather than insightful, although probably still somewhat insightful. And the insight will come from, the insight is sight from within. It'll always come from you anyway. It can't come from me. All I can do is be a catalyst for that. But your insight today will come from you actually doing the questions, or you entertaining these questions, playing with these questions, mentally doing them, or actually doing them. And that's me done. 6 minutes, 40 seconds. Look at me go. Who knew I could do a short episode? Because I didn't have any faith. I've even impressed myself. Anyway, I appreciate you being here. Hope you got use from this. Final thing is, if you are someone that actually thinks you would benefit from, being in a room and doing this is something that I've done many times before and we'll be doing again. It's January, so do you know what? If you want to get ahead, now's the time, to be thinking about that. If you don't and you want to just eat Christmas pudding and mince pies early, then go for it. But in Jan, I will be doing another meetup where essentially we're all in a room together. It's usually, business owners, freelancers, solopreneurs, but it doesn't have to be. It isn't always. Other people come as long as they resonate with my stuff. So it's a room full of like-minded people. And this is the stuff we do, right? We look at the quarter, what our goals are, what our intentions are. We break that down, being, body, business, balance, all of those things, right? All the key areas. And then reflect back on those at the next meet, essentially. But also deep conversations like this, talking about nervous system regulation, meditation, thoughts, consciousness, mind, all of the stuff I talk about. So I'll put a link in the show notes, in the description somewhere. I've not checked on Apple where they go, but I know obviously in Spotify. But you can find me. If you want to come, you'll find me. You know where I am. I'm on Instagram. I'm in Spotify. I'm somewhere. I'm Facebook. Come hunt me down. If you if you don't know how to access me, then there's your mission. But yeah, I'll put a link in there so you can kind of register your interest for that, or reach out and I'll talk to you about what that looks like. But anyway, that's me done. Have a good weekend. I will speak to you soon.